The Dice Tower, episode 547. I'll take one of each.
The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. This episode is sponsored by USAopoly. Share laughter and make memories. Welcome to the Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them.
In today's show, Mandy and I spend the entire episode recapping what we saw and played at a couple of our recent conventions. I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandy Hutchinson.
Mandy, we have been busy. Holy cow.
I know, different parts of the US and Canada, going to different cons. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And, I've thanks to the miracle of social media, I've been having a lot of fun seeing photos of you at Breakout Con while I was at Gama pretty much at the same time.
Yes, and I have to say, I think your pictures potentially outshone mine. I saw a lot of pie.
Well, it was, of course, when I was down in Reno, Nevada for Gama, it happened to overlap the March 14th date, which, of course, is 3.14, which just happens to be Pie Day.
Oh,
and I had to celebrate appropriately, of course.
I'm a little jealous. Oh, it looks so good.
I had, Mandy, can you guess how many pieces of pie I ate?
Do I want to know how many pieces of pie you ate?
Hey now. Hey, Mandy, I ate 5 pieces of pie.
I can't believe you. Lent is almost over, and then I can eat all the pie I want.
And it was yummy. Yeah, so that was definitely a highlight of the trip. Of course, nothing to do with games, but
no, of course not.
Pie.
Well,
so tell me a little bit about Breakout Con. What's the deal there?
Oh, well, I literally, as we are recording this, just got off the train. So jumped right in because it was so exciting. I had to talk about a few things. Breakout Con is one of the bigger cons that's held in Canada, and it's in Toronto. And it was awesome. It was very relaxing. I wasn't stressed. I mean, I was still going around socializing, doing panels. I did a really fun panel with a couple of designers that people might be familiar with, actually more than a couple. And it was about pitching the perfect game. So It was really good for up and coming, designers or people who are just interested in how to pitch a game to publishers. So it was really fun. I got to moderate that panel. Definitely met a few people who listened to the podcast and got to have some chats with them. And I played a ton of games and even taught some games as well. So overall, I had a blast.
Okay, so I have to admit, and apologies, but I haven't heard of Breakout Con before. And here you're saying it's like one of the biggest conventions in Canada. And so is this a playing convention, or is this an pub? Because you're talking about designers learning how to pitch games. What kind of convention is it?
So it's definitely one. It's like a mishmash. Honestly, it's a mishmash because so when I say it's a larger convention, it's not like a Gen Con. It's not on that scale, but it's definitely one I should probably use the term that it's a more well-known one in Canada. But you have an area for the the prototypes that are being played, and Proto-TO shows up and they have their own kind of little event where they showcase prototypes from designers. And so they have an actual area where they're showing games. And then there are a few, not very many, but there are a few publishers that are there with some of the designers, and they're showing up and coming games or games that potentially were recently published. And then we do have rooms for panels, for workshops, and then we have other rooms for actual gameplay. So it's actually a little mishmash of everything. So think of some of the bigger ones in the States, but on a smaller scale.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I mean, that's a really versatile game convention where no matter what you want to accomplish, it sounds like you have that option there. That's very cool.
You do. And it's like you don't feel stressed for the most part. So you can go relax, even though you're, working and doing things. I don't know. It's just not that crazy, stressful feeling. So I'm sure it's very different from Gama, which you went to. How was that?
Gama was great. So Dice Tower followers might know that the Dice Tower often goes to Gama and does a series of publisher interviews. And the Dice Tower crew, a lot of them were down at Gama again, and Tom and Sam and Z and Kenny and Derek, and they were down there doing the interviews. Now, I actually went down to support Restoration Games, disclaimer. And so I did sneak in one publisher interview because I just happened to be up in the recording area trying to steal cookies. And they're like, Suzanne, you wanna do a publisher? I'm like, sure, why not? So I managed to sneak one in. But in years past, it's really been on practically on the convention floor, just like in a little offshoot room, which, Mandy, you remember from last year. But
yes.
This year, Gama used to be in Las Vegas, and this is the first year that they've transitioned to Reno, and a totally different facility and layout and all this other stuff. And so what the Dice Tower did is they got basically a hotel suite, a series of rooms, and then set up a little studio in there. And whoa, it was so nice. First of all, it was on the 17th floor, so instantly it was quiet. One of the challenges One of the challenges we've had at Gama is because you're so close to the show floor, it's really, really noisy, and a lot of people are coming and going and all this other stuff. By putting it in kind of more of a private area, it was quiet. There was a sofa in there for people who are waiting or hanging out, so it was comfortable. There was a kitchen where there were snacks and things like that. And it just happened that the flat panel TV in the room was positioned well, so Derek and Kenny plugged into that like it was a monitor for the recording. It was such a nice setup this year, and I actually wish I could have done more with them because it was so cool. So that was a really nice setup. But Gama is really, it's not a convention. It is a trade show. And so this is really where retailers and publishers get to meet, and publishers get to see what's coming up. There's seminars for the publishers that range from, business basics to press meetings. Now I can't think of the right term. It was so embarrassing. Where they're hearing all about what's coming up and what the publishers have planned, both for the stores and just in general. And so it's a trade show. It's not typically open to the public, right? But there are a lot of designers there as well. So there's tons and tons of meetings going on. You see tons of prototypes being played everywhere. So between, kind of the seminars and the demo nights and stuff like that, it has definitely the feel of a convention. And I'm actually really happy I got to play as many games as I did because I wasn't expecting to get a lot played. But it is busy for sure.
How was the atmosphere? Because I know when we went last year, there was a lot of smoke. Has that changed at all?
That was one of my favorite things. So the new facility is bigger. The spaces were roomier, and the way that it's laid out, it's Reno. There's still casinos and things like that. It was much less smoky. Like, I remember walking in, and literally one of the first thoughts I had was, oh my gosh, I'm not surrounded by a haze of cigarette smoke. And I was so happy because I'm not a smoker and I don't care for it. It actually irritates my eyes and things like that. So that was a really big improvement. And the show floor was bigger. And so it felt a little more spacious, a little less crowded, which was nice. If, claustrophobic or whatever, it was a little roomier. And it just felt a little more comfortable. There's kind of this big open area with lots of like little soft seating areas with sofas and chairs, and there was a little coffee shop there. And so you just saw a ton of people kind of lingering and loitering there, setting up games on footstools and cafe tables and trying prototypes. And you got to see a lot of people that way. I know because you're not in Vegas, I guess this could be considered a pro or a con, depending on what you're looking for. There wasn't as much stuff to do right outside the hotel. In Vegas, you step out and there's just, whoa. I mean, it's Vegas. At the Peppermill in Reno, it was very, very nice. But, you step outside, you have to walk around a little bit and things like that. So people seem to stay centralized at the event a little bit more. Some people kind of wished it was otherwise. For me, it was kind of cool because I felt like I got to see more people that way. But, people, that's all just based on personal preference or whatever. So I'm personally happy with the move to Reno. Although the one thing is that on Thursday, unexpectedly, I guess lesson learned, look at the weather report. It started to snow. Man, I'm telling you, and they never snowed in Vegas for Gama.
I saw pictures and I was like, where is this again? There's a lot of snow.
Like sunny and 70 on Tuesday. And then bam, Thursday it started to snow and it did not stop. So I know some people were trying to get out of town. Thursday night or Friday got delayed, or things like that. Planes had to be de-iced and all that jazz. But it was really pretty.
Well, we see a lot of snow here, so, you get used to it after a while.
Fair enough.
But side note, I don't know if this happened to you at Gama, whether it was something that you were just like, this is really cool, loved it, need to talk about it. I got to talk about something.
Okay.
While playing all these fantastic games, yes, I know, we're back to games now. My friend had some really cool bowls made. So what type of bowls, you ask? Every time.
Like for salad? What's the deal here?
I know, right? See, we're back to food. No. It's for game pieces. So people I know can get them. There's varying ones on, I know like BGG has them and other people have them. I know you've made some as well. But these ones
okay.
Yeah, so the ones that you can hold your components and pieces in. Oh my gosh, they're so cool. And I wish I could show these, but maybe I will showcase them on our Q&A a bit more. But
that's a great idea.
Yeah, so they're like a silicone. They lay flat, and then the little corners you can put them. They have like these little knobby things that go through holes. So it's not like a clip or anything that can potentially come off. And they go into the 4 little corners, and they kind of pinch in to make a bowl. They're really great for travel, and I'm obsessed with them because they're deeper than some of the other ones that I've used. So anyway, I'm throwing that out there. I still have my little cupcake cup holders, but I like the fact that these lay flat and you can throw them in your suitcase. So just throwing it out there. You're gonna have to watch Q&A, as I'm probably gonna talk about them a little bit more. But
I want to get a closer look at those. Those sound great.
Very cool.
I love that. That's so cool. Well, everyone, what Mandy and I were talking about, we actually had our show notes and everything, and then we got together and we're talking about how much fun we had at our respective shows, and we decided to mix it up at the last second. So instead of kind of going through our normal show routine, we're actually just going to talk about all the cool things that we saw or got to play at either Breakout Con or at Gama, and just kind of go through things a little quickly, but give you an overview of all of it. Because I don't know, I think we're in agreement, Mandy. There was a lot of cool stuff at these places.
A lot of games. I know on my end, it was a lot of games that are I had a lot of games that are published that I'm going to talk about. And I think you had some that are not, I shouldn't say published, but they're finalized. I don't know. I think you had some that were kind of in the process.
Oh, yeah. That were super rough protos, but still got to get a good feel for them. So hopefully everybody enjoys that, chat, because let's start talking about what we saw at our shows.
All right, it is time to talk about all the games that we played, and well, it's a lot. So we're going to quickly go through them, but still give you, the good stuff so you can have a better understanding of how the games work. So I'm going to start. The first game that I played, or I shouldn't say that, one of the games that I played is Untold Adventures Await. This is designed by John Fiore, Rory O'Connor. Artist is Rob Dalton, Winnie Sheck. Publisher is the Creativity Hub Games. It's priced at around $30 Canadian. So Untold Adventures Await, it's the customized storytelling game powered by, I think people know this, Rory's Story Cubes. I don't know if you've heard of this, but I feel like this is one a lot of people know about.
Oh, I love Rory's Story Cubes. I'm so excited to hear about this.
So this game is literally storytelling, collaborative storytelling. That is it. So if you are looking for anything else for assistance, no. You got to use the power of the mind in this game. You cannot be afraid to be embarrassed or, worried about saying something silly because this game solely relies on you telling the story. And it's really neat because it kind of plays out like a television episode, right? You have your plot twist and, where's the location? Everybody develops their characters. Your characters can have special abilities. And you're all talking this through as a group. You have these fun dice that you can roll for inspiration, but you're also using these dice as inspiration for your locations, to develop your story, your plot twists, and, how you're being attacked or captured. Our story was so strange. I don't know how we ended up talking about, we had like an iDog and we started talking about like Apple, like iPhone. We started talking about how Windows phone users were like part of some rebellion group. Oh, wait, that might have been the Android phone users, and then people had like powers. It was so strange. I don't know how we got to where we did, but we did. But you know what? That's okay. That's what the story is meant. We all kind of followed along and went with it. And it was really cool because the boards had these like little tokens where you could have ideas. So jump in with someone else's idea. And as long as everybody was okay with it, you could use that idea. You had on every part of the story. So I think there's 4 parts, if I recall, 4 or 5 parts. You have questions you can ask. There's a way you have to phrase it. And then there's actions you can take and cards. There are a couple cards you can flip with your outcome and reaction. And it tells you if this is the outcome, then this is how a character has to react. So you have to tell your story based on that reaction. Is it good? Is it bad? Anyway, it was interesting. We had fun. This is not going to be for everyone. This is a game that you really need to not worry about how, you feel talking about, being spontaneous with your story. And not everybody's like that or will be comfortable with that. It is pure storytelling. We enjoyed it for what it was, but I definitely think a younger audience would also appreciate that more. So if you have children or even just, I think it's geared towards that. I'm not saying adults can't play it, but I think they would appreciate it a little bit more. So for our group, when we played it, we liked it, but I don't think it's something that I would play often.
Interesting. I mean, it really sounds, because at first I thought it was just kind of open storytelling, but really what you described is that there's actually mechanisms in there, like the reaction cards and things like that. So there's some kind of framework for it, for the storytelling. So, I mean, I wonder if this would appeal to RPGers or not.
I definitely think it could. I mean, the imagination is there. The storytelling aspect is there. I just think someone who's used to having a game that has like a lot of structure or has a lot of guidance, I'm not saying this doesn't, it has inspiration, but if you need to be like kind of say held by the hand and say, this is how this game plays or this works, and you don't want to too much creatively think about what you're going to do in a game, this is not going to be for you.
Sure. But I think it does sound like it would be fun to try with a younger set too.
Yes, 100%.
These are the kinds of things that kids can just really get into and create hilarious, fabulous things out of them.
I definitely think they will come up with something probably more entertaining than Rebel window phone users. Okay, that was Untold Adventures Await.
Well, I wanted to talk about first Keyper. This is coming from Keymaster Games, and kind of like you mentioned, Mandy, just the different nature of the places that we were. Gama has, there's some prototypes out there, pre-release things, because they're drumming up interest with the retailers and things like that. So a lot of these aren't quite out yet, so forgive me for this, but I had so much fun looking at all this stuff. So Keyper is coming from Keymaster Games, and it's actually a re-implementation of a game called It's Mine. They've fully updated the art and some of the iconography, which is a good thing. And I am just fascinated by this one. I actually got to play a full game of it. This is a 2-player drafting game with some area control and a bit of set collection. And it's got a theme of like you're in Europe and you're thieves. And you're pulling, I guess, heists. You get 3 different locations, and there's a bunch of these locations, and so they change up the gameplay a little bit, which is nice to add some variability. And you basically go back and forth in these rounds. And the first round, you're going to draft thieves that you then get to play to these different locations. And in the next round, you draft equipment that you can add on to the thieves. And then the next round you draft more thieves, and you kind of get fewer and fewer as you go, and you play like 6 drafting rounds total, I think. And so you're basically just playing these thieves and equipping them at these 3 different locations. And the thieves and their equipment will form set collections. They have like, alignments and color codes and stuff like that. But then the locations also have scoring abilities too. So you're trying to balance where you put your thieves for control, which thieves and equipment you use to kind of get those points if you win the location, and then getting points based on what equipment you match up to the thieves, even if you lose control of the location. It's very straightforward. It's very quick. I always think 2-player drafting is interesting because it's just one of those game types that doesn't seem like it would work well with 2 players. And I think often it doesn't.
Right.
I think Seven Wonders Duel is a great example of one that works very, very well with that kind of open Winchester-style draft. Rochester? Winchester? It's one of those 2. I don't know why I'm getting confused.
Sounds like a supernatural situation over here.
It does. Fangirl. But I think Keyper did 2-player drafting quite well. It's quick. It's easy to pick up. There's a lot of variability in the equipment and the thieves, and the new art on it is just wonderful. It's delightful. It's got this really stylish art. So I'm excited for it. I'm really looking forward to getting this one. I am a complete failure in that I don't know when it's coming out. I think it's coming out hopefully relatively soon. They were still finalizing some of the iconography and stuff like that. So I think we're a little bit of ways off of that, but definitely one to keep an eye out for if you enjoy 2-player games for sure. And that is Keyper from Keymaster Games.
Yeah, the 2-player drafting definitely interests me. It's like 2-player trick-taking games. It's just one of those things that you don't hear of working often. So when that happens, you're like, ooh, piques your interest. So definitely looking forward to checking that out. So the next game that I played at Breakout is Space Freaks, or was Space Freaks. Now, I know what you're thinking, space. Just wait now, I had to try it. So this was designed by Kjær Jentunen and Max Wickstrom. Artist is Marku Lane and Harry Tarka. Publishers Latapeli and Stronghold Games. Retails about 60 Canadian, 50 US. So in Space Freaks, you basically have a team that you're using to fight other teams, but really, it's your freaks. You're creating one from the start of the game that's powered up. It has a really cool ability with the head, and then you have other parts of the body that do different things, like can give damage or lots of movement or higher range of attack. So in this game, you're trying to attack everybody else's freaks, aliens, or droids that may be put out onto the board in the game. So it's one of those boards with the little hexes that you can move into in areas where you can get some health and things like that. So you do have a card that affects the round, which is, I think it's like the Area Master card, and sometimes they're awful, like getting damage for every movement. And what you're trying to do is attack the other players. In the beginning, it's their freaks that you've all created. I like the part of the game where when you do kill one of your opponents, they're removed from the game for that round, but they come back in at the end of their turn. So they're not completely eliminated.
Okay.
So to win the game, there's 6 rounds, and basically the end of the 6 rounds, whoever has the most points wins, and you get points by, attacks and being successful on your attacks. Completing objectives, things like that. So it's actually fairly straightforward once you play it. I will say that this game, I've played it a few times now, and this is one of the times was at the con, and it's had the same response. It's not a game initially that I would say, ooh, I want to try this game. I'm not one with these attacky type games. Mm-hmm. It was fun when we played it. Everyone's like, wow, okay, it was more fun than I thought it was going to be. But the consensus was, okay, fun. We had a really good time. I don't really need to play it again. It's like they felt like they saw everything in that game and they were good with it. I feel it's the type of game that if that style of game is something that you're familiar with and you enjoy, I think you'll like it. I think if it's out of your realm, I'm not saying you can't enjoy it, but the replayability portion of it, I guess, was an issue for some people. They just felt like, okay, it's great. I get the concept of the game. I see how it plays with a little bit of fun. I'm good.
Gotcha.
And it
Okay.
was on multiple occasions. That was kind of the reaction that I got. I also found the colors a little strange for the aliens and the droids. Like I didn't like the mesh. Like the box for the game is pink, which I love.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. And the board itself, I mean, it looks like terrain. That's to be expected. And then you have these bright orange aliens, these like grayish white droids. And then your freaks are in purple, this kind of pea green, this weird orange, and another color. Like the color scheme was a bit odd for me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I mean, Space Freak stands out to me because I thought the cover treatment was really bold, right? And it stands out on, if you were to line it up amongst a bunch of other games, it really stands out. So I have a copy of this one and I've got to check it out. I think I like attacky games a little bit more than you, but not a ton. Yeah. I think the way you form your freak or whatever with the different abilities and stuff sounds like it could be really cool. So
I wish they added ways for you to change it more. And I think that would have engaged everyone a little bit more.
Interesting.
And that came up on multiple occasions. There are some things that allow you to swap, but I feel if you were able to kind of just, even if it was random, you randomly had to switch it and then you had to deal with the ability or power that was designated. So yes, I know it adds a bit of like randomness to the game, but then it makes it more entertaining and interesting because now you're given a power that you kind of have to use. It's like, well, I didn't really want that, but you have to make it work. It's going to make you think a little bit more. So this is something that came up, just maybe changing them out a little bit more or having multiple ones that you can, put into the board and use. So I just think that people wanted to, interject a little bit, maybe a bit more of that randomness with the cards and the abilities, just to kind of shake it up a little bit. So overall, it wasn't a bad game. I just think if this is the type of game you like, you will continue to like it. It was a surprise. I did actually enjoy myself. I worry about this being a game that I would play all the time.
Fair enough.
That was Space Freaks.
Next up for me is Prowlers Passage. Now, I played this in it had art on it, but it was, like a hand-cut prototype. So this is actually coming out from Renegade Games, and it's a new design from J. Alex Cavern. 2-player only, and intriguing little game. And I think I remember seeing it a while ago, and it's nice to kind of see designs go from, idea and grow into an almost, complete prototype kind of thing. Prowlers Passage, like I mentioned, it's a 2-player game, and I guess mechanically it's set collection and tug of war, but not physical tug of war. But basically you've got a bunch of hexes that you lay out, and they've got 3 little different types of zones on them. And you've got roads, and I think you're prowling, and so you're placing roads to connect places that you can sneak around to and steal stuff with. And on all of these roads, which are basically where the tiles meet, the hexes meet, there's a token. And there's a variety of tokens that I think are placed out randomly, so gold and jewels and keys and things like this. And when you put a road down, you take the tokens that is there. And that's your set collection. You're collecting all these little different tokens of the different types. But then you've got a road between 2 different segments. So maybe and again, thematically, I'm sure there are types of buildings, but there was like houses and churches and some other castles, I guess, these different types of building types. So you have a road between 2 different types or 2 different sections of these hexes. Those are the sections that you move these pieces on a tug of war track. So if as Seven Wonders Duel mentioned earlier, it's like that military track where it goes back and forth. You have that push and pull. It's the same thing here. So if I move it on the blue and the white pieces, then I'm going to move them towards me. If you do it, then you move them back towards you. Mm-hmm. The reason why this matters is that you're collecting all these tokens, but you only get to score for the buildings that you control, for the ones that you've gotten onto your side of that midline on that tug of war track. And that's really fun, that push and that pull and vying for control and making sure that you're taking the right tokens, but trying to figure out, I really want that token, but I really need to move these buildings in my direction. And there's nothing there that I want, but I have to do it. That kind of tension is really entertaining and really interesting. It's light, it's quick because the board is modular, the tokens are random, there's some variability in there. a little bit of a point salad, right? Because all these different buildings score differently, which is nice too. So there's a strategic element there as well as you're assessing the board and trying to figure out which direction you want to go, which is, quite typical of Alex's designs when you think about World's Fair and things like that. Seemingly simple games, but once you start really looking at them, you can do some planning and there's some strategy there that's a nice kind of middle weight for me.
Right.
So I'm really looking forward to seeing the final product. I mean, the art was looking really nice, and I think it'll be a really engaging 2-player experience when it comes out. So keep your eyes out for that. And that was Prowlers Passage.
There's a lot of 2-player games coming out. Okay, this is interesting. And Set Collection. I'm going to keep my eyes open for that one. So there's one that I know a lot of people had asked me about when I was at Breakout, and it was Clank, the Mummy's Curse. So this is an expansion to the base Clank, so not Clank in Space, the original Clank. This is designed by Andy Cloutis. Publisher is Direwolf Digital and Renegade Studios. It retails for about 21 Canadian, 23 US. So this is the expansion. This expansion is used now. They say, I think, no, they have other expansions. It's not recommended to use this expansion with the Sunken Treasures.
Okay.
So just if people are wondering, it does list this in the rules. Now, this is not out for sale yet. It is on pre-order, I believe, right now, but it should be out within a couple of weeks from when we air this. So just in case you go looking for it, it's coming. So if you're not familiar with Clank, just a little bit of background on Clank, it is a really fun game. But you get to, you have a nice fun board with there's just so much going on. But basically you're trying to go into this cave, try to get down to the deep levels and collect really cool artifacts and some other fun things. Bring it back out without making too much noise and getting lots of, bad things happen to you in the cave with the dragon, and get out before everyone else and kind of push that timer to force everyone to get out, or, they may perish in the cave and, they get no points. That didn't happen to me at all when we played. Every time people pick up artifacts, it makes the dragon move, and we have our little squares. It's Clank that you can accumulate, and there are cards in the market that come out, and when they have a little dragon on them, all the Clank that's on the board goes into this bag, and you draw them out based on where the dragon is. And let's just say you don't want your cubes to come out because that's lost health for you. That's the general gist of the game. There are other things that happen, but just to give you an overall idea. So the Mummy's Curse adds to the game now the Wandering Mummy. So those familiar with the game, there's a goblin you can fight in the original, and it's a monster that stays out all the time. So you can use your attack and get money. The mummy is also now like the goblin, so it stays out with the goblin, and you can attack it, but it has 2 options. You can attack it for less attack, and you can get 4 money. However, you also get a curse. Oh, yes, the mummy gives you curses, which are worth -2 points at the end of the game.
Ooh.
Yeah. Or you can attack using more attack value, and that will actually remove half your curses rounded up. So that's the other option of removing it.
Okay.
There is a die. So in order to attack the mummy, you need to be in the area where the mummy is. Once that is met and you've done your attack, then you have to roll this die. You roll the die and then move the mummy to whatever the symbol is on the die, so wherever on the board.
Okay.
If there are players in that area, they get curses.
Nice.
I was like, this is awesome. So that was really great. And then you have other cards that are entered into the game through the expansion that kind of work with the mummy by, having to roll the die, and then it moves it somewhere else and people get curses. There's also a new artifact, I believe, that is entered into this game as well. And I think those are mostly the new things. So the artifact, and then there's some of the other tokens, secret tokens that are new as well, but that relate to the new expansion. So that's all that's added to it. I definitely could say I like the theme of the original Clank. So I'm really enjoying the Mummy's Curse. I've played it quite a few times now. That die gets me every time. The curses are great. I think I finished with -10 curses. I probably should have did some more fighting against the mummy, but just didn't work out. But
Nice.
I've had games where there wasn't a lot of movement with the mummy. So you can have games where it's heavily lots of curses, and then you have other games where not as much. So it's a slight addition to the game, but I still enjoyed it. But I enjoyed the game to begin with. So
it sounds like just a nice additive if you're a Clank fan.
Exactly. So that's where it is. So I enjoyed it. I really like it. And I think that if you're a Clank fan, this is something that you will probably enjoy.
Ooh, so I can't wait to try it.
Clank, the Mummy's Curse, coming soon.
I figured I'd hit 2 quickies in a row here. One, Dinosaur Tea Party, which is coming out from Restoration Games at Gen Con. Again, disclaimer, I consult with Restoration Games, so I was at Gama to support Restoration Games, so I want to be very clear about any kind of bias there. That said, I just thought I'd share it because I demoed this game so many times. I mean, I couldn't talk about Gama if I didn't talk about this darn game. And Dinosaur Tea Party is a redo of a game called Who's It from 1976, which is kind of like a multiplayer Guess Who. And Restoration took it and got rid of like kind of the human theme and made it about dinosaurs, very elegant dinosaurs attending a very refined tea party. And so you're just trying to figure out, using deduction. It's a straightforward, lightweight deduction game where you're asking each other questions about, are you wearing a hat? Do you have a flower? Are you eating cake? To try to figure out who everybody is, because basically you all go to this lovely dinosaur tea party, but because you have brains the size of walnuts, you've forgotten each other's names.
Oh, wow.
And it's got really, really great art. I mean, I'm so in love with Dinosaur Tea Party art. You've got to look at it. These dinosaurs are amazing. They're just delightful. And so it was so much fun. I mean, I played it like at least 15 times. I demoed it nonstop, and I still like it. It was a lot of fun. So it was just really rewarding and gratifying to see people respond positively to it and enjoy it as well. So that was Dinosaur Tea Party. Again, disclaimers. And then another little quick one I tried is Nimble, coming out from Stronghold Games. It's already out. I think it's already out as with Spielwise, but it's a Spielwise Stronghold partnership, that kind of thing that they do. And this is so light and quick. It's just a deck of cards. And in fact, I was walking by, the Strongholds table, and they're like, "Hey, you want to play a 5-minute game?" And I said, "Oh, no, I gotta get in." No, really, it's 5 minutes. I'm like, all right. So sure enough, it's a 5-minute game. And it's because it's basically a speed and recognition pattern matching game. You each get your own deck of cards, and they have a circle in the middle with a pattern. And then the surrounding area of the card has a color and a pattern. And basically, you're playing them to a discard spot in front of you, and then you're watching the other people too. And you get to put down, you want to go through your deck. You just want to discard your whole deck following the discard rules, which is if the card you have, if the outside of it matches the circle on a card that's on the table, you can put it down on top of it. Like, that is the whole game. I'm telling you right there. Yeah,
I'm waiting. I'm like, is there?
You're just watching. You're like, what else? No, I mean, you're just watching everybody discard these cards, waiting for your chance to play this thing. And you don't have to hold on to your own cards. You can cycle through your deck quickly. So you're not just sitting there waiting. There is like you keep on rapidly going through this. Right. So you're just matching the outside of a card to the inside of a circle and playing your cards down as fast as you can. Which, if you're in the right mood for it, it was really, really fun. Right. You're going there, and it was a little tricky. And the Paula, who works for Stronghold, was explaining you do kind of get into this mantra: out to in, out to in, out to in, because you're matching the outside to the inside kind of pattern.
Right.
If I had one, it is what it is. It's a very light, very silly speed game. Speed games, a lot of people dislike. I'm okay with them, but if that doesn't turn you off, I think it's super duper fun. I had a blast with it. It was sure enough, it was a nice, energizing 5-minute game. My only complaint about it was that there's a bunch of colors in it, and one is like cream, light blue, and dark blue. And unfortunately for me, and maybe this was intentional even, when you're in the heyday, sometimes it's hard to tell the light blue from the dark blue, and sometimes it was hard for me to tell the cream from the light blue.
Right.
I could see where maybe that's partly intentional. I don't know, but that certainly threw me for a loop a couple of times. But yeah, that was just a silly lightweight, quick speed card game called Nimble coming out, and I liked it.
Interesting. Well, the name definitely, I feel, fits the theme
Exactly.
and game mechanics. So smart on their part. So another game that I played was Odis. And I know Suzanne has talked about this previously. I think you have on one of the podcasts.
But had you played it by the time when I talked about it? Oh, good. I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
So it was designed by Claude Lucchini. Artist is Paul Maffeon. And it's published by Libelud and Pearl Games. Retails is about 56 Canadian and 40 US. So briefly, in Odis, you're playing, each player has a team of divers that they're using to take actions, retrieve items, and complete objectives. So quickly, to kind of recap, because I know we have talked about it before, each player's board has a bunch of divers that do a variety of things for them. And then we have numbered slots where we can use these actions, but the divers need to be in that slot. And then we have another board where, based on the slot choice we pick, that will also give us additional actions. And this could be upgrading a tile. It could be giving us credits, which is money in the game, things like that. And then once you've used this tile, the number tile goes to the bottom of your board. So I think that's on your tech track. And then the diver comes out of its spot and actually goes to the top and pushes everything down. So it's going to be a little while before you can use that action again. So that's just a general idea of how the game plays. The first time I played this game, I was like, I don't know. I was super iffy about it.
Really?
I thought it was really nice. I liked the way it looked. And I just went, oh, okay, it's fine. And I was like, no, I got to play it again. So played it again with another group. Just after the explanations, one of the guys that I played with was like, I'll be right back. Comes back. He went and bought it. We had just gone through the rules. Like we hadn't even started playing.
He's like, I've heard enough.
He's like, this sounds great. So we started playing, and myself and the gentleman who bought the game, we were kind of not struggling, but like it just, some games are really intuitive. This just wasn't clicking for us. Like I just couldn't remember things, right? Versus the other two people were playing with like, yeah, this is great. I got it. I won this game. Geez, I was on a roll this weekend. I won a lot of games, which never happened. So I must have been getting something right. But we really liked the art. We really liked the way that you could use the divers. And it really made you think, okay, oh my goodness, if I use this one here, I may not get this token back later, which means I can't use this slot. But then this diver is going to come down in that slot and I need it. And there are ways to move the order and stuff. But it was just a lot of puzzling it out and thinking, which I really liked. Mm-hmm. I definitely enjoyed my second playthrough much more. I don't know what changed between then to now. I don't know if I was just playing with people who were more competitive in the market area. I'm not sure. I really enjoyed it, but I also took a different approach. I tried to complete more of the mission type cards.
Sure.
Where you had to have the right cubes at the right level. And that strategy seemed to work for me because I got points a lot faster. Because in this game, you're trying to race to get to, I think it's 18 if I'm not mistaken, first. So I don't know. I really enjoyed it. And the art is an eye catcher. We had a lot of people stop and say, oh, it's really pretty. What is that? And then wanted to know more. I did have some issues with some components in the game. So I just felt like if you're going to recess parts of the board, why didn't others get done as well? Like those tracks for your tech on the bottom, and I forget what the other gentleman is called. Why would you not? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And even in the middle of the board too, it's a bit awkward the way that there's like this really big space, and I feel like that could have been done a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. So those were a few things I just wonder why that didn't happen, but maybe on the next print run they'll do that. So for me, Odis was a hit. I really liked it, and I'm looking forward to playing it again.
Awesome. I'm so glad that I love hearing about people. And this happened to me too, really recently, where you're lukewarm on a game the first time you play it, but then you give it another shot and then you really get into it. I think that that's always a good lesson for us, as far as all these new games go. Well, I'm just going to, again, because I was at a trade show, I'll talk about two games that I saw just because they were notable as I was looking at them, but I didn't get to do much with them, but I wanted to mention them anyway. First of all, the Container 10th Anniversary Edition. For those of you who aren't familiar with Container, it's actually been on my wish list for ages, so I'm excited that this is coming out. Container is, I don't know, it's an economic game and pick up and deliver game with the containers that that are in the name. It's about shipping containers, like and it's really well known. It'd been out of print for a while, and then boom, here comes the Container 10th Anniversary Edition from Mercury Games, and I think it was actually on Kickstarter a little bit ago. And Mercury had the production copy laid out there. And I just have to say, if you backed this on Kickstarter, you are going to be excited because it looks amazing. And it's going to be one of these games where it could be a weapon of war because it is so heavy. Oh. What they did is it's jumbo. It's the 10th anniversary jumbo edition. And Mandy, I cannot even begin to tell you. These ships are the sizes of like plantains. They are huge and they are heavy and they're designed, they're all in 3D. And they have little recesses that perfectly fit these really awesome looking container rectangles or cubes or whatever they are. And just component wise, it is a stunner. I would not want to drop one of those ships on my feet though, because it was huge and it was heavy.
I heard that. No, I actually did hear that the game is extremely heavy.
I don't like that's got to go on the bottom shelf. Otherwise you're going to tip it over. But I didn't get to play it or anything, but boy, I'm excited to see, like, get a closer look at that one. And then another one I just kind of breezed by and was in prototype form is Haven, coming from Red Raven Games, which is one of my...
That was there? What? That was on my list.
Yeah.
Sorry. Tell me more.
Well, I wish I could tell you. I didn't get to play it, but it's a new 2-player game by Elf Seeger, who collaborates with Ryan Lockett of Red Raven pretty frequently. For example, Above and Below, I believe Elf wrote a bunch of the stories along with Ryan on that.
Right.
And Haven it's going to be a 2-player game. It's going to be in a square box, but it's smaller because it's only 2 players, right? It's smaller. It has a board and stuff like this and a bunch of cards, but it's a little smaller than an Above and Below box. It looks like it's 8x8. And it's thematically, you're playing as the forest against the city, right? And the city's trying to encroach on the forest, and the forest is trying to push back the city. So I think thematically, that's just a really, really cool element.
Cool.
It's Red Raven, so of course this darn thing looks absolutely stunning. Yeah, you know how it goes. The art is rich and lush and just it looks so vibrant because there's a lot of green with the forest thing. And I was flipping through the prototype cards and there's like all these really charming animals illustrated on them. And I'm so excited to see this one. I think, and please forgive me if I'm incorrect here, but I think when I was talking to Ryan about this, he indicated that there was going to be like a Kickstarter for this one,
yes,
relatively soon, and that it shouldn't be a very expensive game. And I am stoked about that.
It's on my list, and I knew it was coming to Kickstarter. I just wasn't sure when. Don't know if I realized it was 2-player. Actually,
yeah. Yeah, it's 2-player only, for sure. Which I know, not everybody has an easy time getting that player count to the table. I also heard some other exciting news about Red Raven, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. And I know that's super awful for me to say it on the podcast. So I'm sorry, but if you're a Red Raven fan, good things are coming. Good things are coming. And I'm a Red Raven fan, so that's why I'm so excited about it.
But you know the secrets. You know the secrets.
Yes. I'm tapping my fingertips together. I'm so excited.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so Haven will hit Kickstarter in the relatively near future, it sounds like.
It's on the list. I'm excited. So another fun game that I played was Songbirds, which I think was also known as Birdie Fight.
Yeah, that's what I have. I have Birdie Fight. I love the new title.
Can I just say we had so much fun playing this game? We were like, I'm a bird. Nicole made a picture. So my friends, Nicole made a picture. She took a picture of one of the birds and put like a little bubble. She's like, oh, hey.
Nice.
We were just being super silly, but it's just so darn cute. So Songbirds is designed by Yuo, and the artist is Claire Donaldson, published by Daily Magic Games and Homo Sapiens Labs. I don't have a price on this because if I'm not mistaken, it is coming to Kickstarter and potentially maybe on Kickstarter when this podcast airs. So Yes, I could be wrong. I know they were talking about it, but it is coming to Kickstarter relatively soon. So in Songbirds, basically players are forest spirits and you're trying to guide your chosen bird to success. That is literally what it says. So to break that down a little bit, you're basically trying to make sure your favored bird wins. So in the game, there are a variety of ways to play. You can play cooperatively. You can play this game solo. You can add in some special cards to make it a little more difficult, get those negative points in. They've introduced like an owl card. There's a few things. Now, my copy is supposed to have, I think it's a hawk and a crow. This is according to the rules, but my card just looks like two crows. So I think there may have been just a slight, printing.
But it sounds like it's pre-release, so that's pretty normal.
I'm going to say yes on that. So hopefully that'll be something. Yeah, because if it's coming to Kickstarter, they're going to fix that. So in the game, what you're trying to do, so we played with the crow. So the crow has negative points on it. And you have a setup where you have these berries. I think it's like a 5x5 setup. And you've got the four birds at the top because those are where you're going to be scoring. You can put your little score tokens on there, the berry tokens. And each player, depending on the player count, will have either 7, 9 cards, depending. And they have different birds of the colors of the birds that are matching at the top for scoring. So I think it's like red, green, there's white, and blue. And the cards range from numbers 1 to 7. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to place them in the grid. You got to place it beside another card. And we're going to score the row, but you want to have the loudest bird in that row is going to score. So you're like, what's the loudest bird? Basically, the highest values in that row. So you're going to add up the values of the birds that are alike, and the loudest bird or the highest value is going to get points on their bird. So and this happens when you fill up a row with 5 cards or a column with 5 cards, and then you would score it by putting these berry tokens on the corresponding bird. So you do this until the end of the game. So I think it's about 25 cards are out. However, that little crow is a little devil, and depending on which side of the card you use, the hawk or the crow, will depend which bird is going to get negative points. It's really hard to explain on audio, but when you see the card, it has sectioned areas that you have to look at those areas and determine from that which bird is the loudest, and they will get negative points on them. You will have one card in your hand at the end of the round, and this is your favorite bird. So basically, this is the bird that you think is going to have the most points. You want that bird to win. You're going to add the amount that's on that card to the points that are already existing on that bird, and then that's going to give you your final total. So you got to play strategically because you definitely want other birds to get negative points if you are holding a different bird in your color because you want it to win. Oh, that's a lot. It sounds super complicated. It isn't once you start playing. It plays fairly quickly. I really like this game.
Yay!
The rules were a bit of a mess. However, I know it's a translation and I know they're fixing it, but it was frustrating the first few times we tried to play it. And once we figured it out, it was a lot of fun. And I've taught it to a few people since, and we really, really liked it. The art is adorable. Those birds are phenomenal. Fantastic. And yes, I actually have a bird app on my phone, and I sit on my deck and listen to the birds and what sounds they make. So for me, I was in it to win it already with the birds. But it's a small box. You can play it during a lunch hour once you have the teach down. And there is some strategy there, but it's in a short amount of time. So that is Songbirds, or I guess the older version is Birdie Fight, which I think is so cute. Really liked it.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, I've had Birdie Fight, and Yuo is the designer, also the designer of a game called Storia that Osprey brought over as Scheherazade. And and Scheherazade is a 2-player, it's a 1-player solo or 2-player cooperative game that features again, just phenomenal art. But in Scheherazade, it's fairy tale themed, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. And of course, Songbirds has that bird art is excellent. But the reason why I'm even bringing it up is Yo has this thing apparently with grid card games and just can work magic, because that's what Scheherazade is right. Similar, is that you're playing these numbered cards and you're kind of going from left to right and low to high. It's a very different. It's different gameplay than Birdie Fight. But similarly, you've got these cards that you're playing out in a grid and have rules about placement and scoring and things like that. And both Birdie Fight or Songbirds and Storia or Scheherazade, I think, are really great card games. So I'm excited. I'm really glad that you like Songbirds, and I'm really glad that more people are going to get to play it.
Yeah. So Songbirds, look forward to it coming to Kickstarter like super, super soon.
Cool. Well, going into a darker territory.
Ooh.
And Mandy, I know you're a horror fan, like you love
yes.
horror movies and scary movies. I am not. I am not in any way, shape, or form a horror fan, but I put that all aside for Nyctophobia.
Ooh, I'm listening.
Nyctophobia. Oh my good gravy. Where the heck did this game come from? I cannot even tell you, Mandy. So Nyctophobia is coming from Pandasaurus Games.
Really?
And yes. And it is, Mandy, in board gaming, there's a lot of iteration.
Right.
But there's so rarely innovation. And to me, and that's not a complaint, but for me, in any way, shape, or form. But to me, Nyctophobia is innovation. This is a horror game designed by a very young designer. I think she's like 20.
Oh, wow.
And she's grown up playing games. Games are her heart and soul. She's grown up playing them with her uncle, who is blind.
Interesting.
And so imagine playing board games with a blind family member and the adjustments and the limitations, etc.
Absolutely.
So this game designer, and I'm so sorry, I actually looked for it and I couldn't find her name online, because I want to give her credit because, oh my gosh, she decided to design a game that kind of made other people feel the way her uncle feels playing games, a little out of your element. Right?
I think I like where this is going.
And so in Nyctophobia, you are either the hunter or the hunted. And it is multiplayer, so it's not just 2-player. But one player takes on the role of the hunter and the other players take on the role of the hunted. And they're not blindfolds, they are blackout glasses. So these are like plastic sunglasses that are the lenses are completely blacked out. You maybe have a teeny tiny peripheral, so you're not completely boxed in, but you cannot see. And it is freaky. I mean, for somebody who is sighted, as I am, to lose vision it's frightening.
Absolutely.
Even though you're sitting in the middle of a game, like a game hall, and it's totally casual and fun, like it's like, oh man, this is discomforting. So you put on these glasses, and what the board is it's a plastic tray, and it's got all these. It's like a grid of circles of pits. And you've got these round pegs that are fairly sizable. They're like maybe the diameter of a nickel, an American nickel. And you're moving, these are your pawns. And there are fence pieces that are very like jaggedy on top. That's all molded plastic, right? And those go in and you're creating like a maze basically with these fence pieces. And what you're doing is if you are the hunted, you're trying to escape into this car, which is, again, one of these little molded plastic pieces that sit in the board. If you're the hunter, you're trying to damage the other player's pawns. And again, all of this is done by feel. Because you have these blackout glasses on. And what you do is you get to put your finger on your pawn, and they have different patterns etched into the top so you can figure out which one yours it is. And you put your finger on your pawn, and then you feel below around it for what's above and below, like northwest, east, south of you, to figure out where you want to move. And you're communicating with the hunted, or you're communicating with the other players, like, oh, I moved left and then right, and then I hit a fence. You can feel the fences, so you know if you don't want to go there. Oh gosh, Mandy, this is wild. It is wild. There are different scenarios, so there are going to be different board layouts. There are different hunters that have different skills and abilities thematically, like a vampire or kind of like an axe murderer. I mean, again, this is a horror game.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
I don't even know what to do with this. Like, it is, whoa, just. I'm blown away by the creativity and how the feelings you get when you're putting this on. And it is clever, creative, innovative. it discomforts you in a very positive way. And I cannot wait to see. It was still a very rough prototype when I was seeing it. But this is one to definitely keep your eye out for. Nyctophobia coming from Pandasaurus.
Is this coming to Kickstarter?
I don't know.
Okay, I had heard something about that, but I'm not 100% sure. So, okay, I guess we'll have to keep an ear out and hear and see. Hear, see.
Or not see.
Or not see, exactly. But, I mean, it interests me. I like anything that throws you out of your element, and it's something that's different. Yeah. So, looking forward to trying that one. So, on a slightly lighter side, not so scary, I played Keyper. So, Keyper, designed by Richard Brees, artist is Vicky Dalton, publisher is Hutch and R&D Games. Price is about 80 Canadian and 80 US. So, Keyper, it's part of the Key series. So, if you're familiar with Keyflower or any of the other games like that, and it's a worker placement. So, I am not going to go into every detail about this game because it's a lot. But to give you the basic idea, this is the game where it has the boards. I say the boards because people are like, boards? What are you talking about? I literally had people come over and say, oh, wait, let me know when you're going to change the board so I can see. So, where you take your actions, the boards are movable. So you can actually flip sides depending on the season it's on, and other spaces become available in different seasons or rounds. In the game, you have different types of colored meeples. And these meeples are going to be very useful for you depending if you can match the color. And the coolest part is you can actually ask someone to follow you in an action to give you additional actions. What? I know. Super crazy. So basically, to win the game, it's at the end of the last season, which is winter. You want to have the most points. And you do that by using the right meeples in the right spaces. You know, you have your own player board where you're trying to build buildings, and these will also give you points. You have animals that you can sell. That sounds so wrong. Or, other resources that you can buy. And there's a variety of actions on the board that you can do, upgrading buildings, things like that. They have white meeples too, which are great because they're used as wild. So those are also very useful. Something to note, all these meeples that you're placing on all these boards, you have I shouldn't call them meeples, keeples, or what you place out on the board. And then you have your Keyper. It's one, and he looks like he's kind of doing like a high five or something. That allows you to, when you're ready to place that, when you're placing on one of the boards, kind of saying, hey, this is my board. And at the end of the season, you're getting all the keeples that are on that board. What? This is what you're going to use in the next season. Yeah, let me tell you how I had like 4 keeples all game because nobody wanted to go to my board after I claimed it far too early. I know, it was horrible. Anyway, long story short, if you're familiar with the Key series, a lot of elements to this game will seem familiar, but it is different. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed this game. It appealed to me because it had so many different things going on, and I loved it. I loved every minute of that. I had friends who played it with me, and they had a preference for Keyflower. They didn't find that they weren't really interested in all of the mechanics happening with Keyper, and said they liked the mechanics in the Keyflower, which is a very popular game. It's a good game. A lot of people really enjoy it. Keyper to me I don't know if it was the whole board element. It was just different. I really, really enjoyed it. I was actually surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I do find it can get lengthy, especially for people who have, there's a bit of downtime. It is meant to be interactive, so that part definitely happens. It's the rule book. I'm going to say it is bad. It is atrocious. Yep. I'm so sorry. I don't like offending people. However, it has to be said. So this is the type of game where you kind of read the rulebook and then you find a video that explains it well. I'm sorry. I had to do that because there were a few things, and there's a lot of things you can miss. And if you miss it, it does throw the game a little bit. So you definitely want to make sure that you're well-versed before you teach it, unless you want to spend an hour learning it, because it's a lot. So overall, I really enjoyed it. My group here enjoyed it when I played it at Breakout. I think there was a slight preference with a couple people towards Keyflower. Different game, but I guess they liked the complexity potentially and the weight level of that game a bit better, and the mechanics. So that is Keyper.
I'm so glad that you enjoyed it, because this is the game that you and I got like half a game played on the Dice Tower Cruise. before we had to unfortunately cut the game short. And I have never managed to get it going again, Mandy, because of that rule book. And I'm just going to have to give up the ghost and go to a video for sure, because we actually pulled it out at a game night and got it going, and we had to give up. And I'd already played half a game.
Oh, wow.
And, it's one of those games because I hadn't played a full game and really hadn't cemented it. I was basically starting from scratch. And I'm video it is. Huzzah.
Yeah, so I had to be straightforward and honest about that one. And even me, I had played a full game and I still forgot little things. It's one of those games you don't play for a while. You will forget the little bits. You got to review it. So I hope you get a full game in. It is well worth it. Love it.
I also got the chance to try a game called End of the Trail. This is from Elf Creek Games, designed by Mike Hinson, and Mike happened to be at Gama. And this is also a game that I actually had backed on Kickstarter, and it hasn't fulfilled yet. Okay. But because Mike was there and he had a copy, I got to play it. In fact, I think it was probably one of his pre-production copies that, you check to make sure it doesn't have any flaws or anything. Because it was a really, really nice copy. So it looked pretty complete to me.
Right.
And End of the Trail is, it's a pretty simple game. It's kind of, exploration, I guess, but there's this poker mechanism to it. So you lay out a grid of tiles, and there's canyons or mountains or valleys, I think, and then they have gold underneath them, but you don't know how much gold. There's a range, so mountains might have more gold and valleys have less, but there's more of them or whatever. And you basically get dealt out a hand of cards that are like a standard deck of cards with, ace of spades and two of clubs or whatever. Mm-hmm. But a lot of them, they'll also have like a mule on them or a special ability on them. So they're basically multi-use cards. There's also a dollar value on them.
Okay.
And what you do is you get this hand of cards, and then you basically lay out a market of cards, and then you bid on them using the cards you have in the hand, and you say, okay, I'll pay, $2, and then you pay for them. If you win, you pay with them. You pay for the cards with cards.
Okay.
And then you have that hand of cards, so then you all get your final hand of cards, and then you choose up to 3 of them to be your exploration cards. And then these are the cards that let you go out to the board and start peeking under these tiles to discover gold. You can push your luck. If you flip one over and you're like, oh, it's only got 4 gold, you can push your luck and put it back down and then go to another tile if you have the right cards and go, oh, there's 6, or oh, darn, there's 2. And if you go lower, then push your luck element is if you accidentally flip over a tile that's lower, then you're bust. So you're trying to collect these gold, and there's a little memory element as you're trying to remember, for tiles that you've skipped over, et cetera, where they are. And the real twist is you'll get that gold, you get to lay a claim, and then you'll get that gold at the end of the game for points. But the cards that you use to explore are the only cards that will go into your poker hand, because at the end of the game, you're trying to form the strongest poker hand as well for points. So there's a nice little piece of the multi-use card thing where you're trying to figure out, okay, do I want to save this card for its ability for later? Do I need to use it for the auction price? I need it for this suit because I'm going for a flush, but it doesn't let me explore the way I want to. So there's a nice amount of little decisions that you get to make. I've only played it once because it was just the demo copy, but I really enjoyed it. I liked the moments, or there were enough moments where I was like, oh shoot, I have to make a choice here, and it's a tough decision, and that's good for me. I always like those moments that feels good to me when I have to struggle about a decision about a choice I make with a single card. So I liked it. It's got a cute little Western theme, nice looking art. That was End of the Trail.
And this is one I have not heard of at all. So this is definitely one that I can get down with because I'm actually pretty good at poker. So
now
that I said that, people want to play poker, I'm like, oh no, I better brush up.
Good to know.
So another game that we played, and I was actually kind of surprised in the direction that it went, was Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time. This is designed by Matthew Dunstan and Brett J. Gilbert. Artist is Biboon, and the publisher is Passport Games. Price is 37 Canadian and it's about 30 US. So it's a cooperative game. And in the game, Professor Evil is who we're trying to take down. So basically, our team is trying to collect some items from Professor Evil's home and restore them to where they should be. Sounds easy enough. Well, so we thought that too, and it's not. So we are timed. You have a little time track. And there's also, if Dr. Evil catches us in the act of, Professor Evil catches us in the act of getting these treasures that we need to acquire. If he gets all four, well, we're dead. So, which is what happened in our first game. But it's a very interesting setup. So the board is like his home, and there are tiles on the board that have symbols on them. And these symbols are going to correspond to some of the treasures on the board, which we need to acquire. The problem is we also have some dice that can cause the professor to move into rooms. And this is problematic because in order for us to finish the objective, we need to have these tiles turned to their current offside. So like there's like a little electric symbol. It's basically to say that they're the current electricity or whatever, it's turned off. When the professor comes into a room, he turns them back on, which means that we cannot complete the objective until the cards depicting, whatever it is, like a camera, for example, and it's a camera on the treasure, has been turned off. So it can be a problem when the professor starts moving around. However, as players, we have cards that we flip over in our turn, and they have some things that can affect, things in the house. Like we can just turn some of these tiles over, or my character could have been in the same room as the professor, which normally makes you leave the room or go outside. And anyway, you have a clock that you're working against as well, because when you roll the die, you can push it forward. And you definitely don't want the clock hitting any of those treasures because it'll go to Professor Evil. So that's kind of in a nutshell. It sounds really easy. It's not, because you got to work together, and you also have to make sure that a lot of the tiles are corresponding, that you're able to achieve them, get to the tile before the professor does. And overall, it was a kind of a puzzly type game, and it's not super long. It was only about 30, 40 minutes. That could also be because we didn't make it, but all four treasures were taken by the professor. But we surprisingly enjoyed it. I'll be honest with you, I didn't think this was going to be the type of game that I would like. Mm-hmm. I just sometimes have issues with these types of games that are, like, I don't want to say timed, but it feels rushed. I'm like, oh, here we go. So it's either really hard or really easy. This one was still hard, but fun. Like, you still felt that you had decisions that you were able to do or to make, and you worked together with your team, discussed it. I like that interactivity of the game. So Professor Evil and Citadel of Time went over well with the group, actually. Very well.
Right on. Very cool. A game I got to take a sneak peek at and I was excited about is Samurai Jack Back to the Past. This is from USAopoly coming out, and Mandy, I'm a fan of some of these more, modern cartoons, Samurai Jack and Steven Universe and Wee Bear. We've talked about cartoons before, Legend of Korra, things like that, right? And Samurai Jack is the cartoon itself is a piece of art. It's just a phenomenal story and visual storytelling entity thing. I'm super awesome with words.
I got it.
And I was excited that they announced that they were going to be doing a game on Samurai Jack. And so this is going to be, it's light. It's a lightweight game, and you're using cards. You set up a modular board made out of different terrain hexes, and you're going to be using cards. There's some drafting. You get the hand of cards, and then you're trying to move your pawns around the board. You're trying to save Jack's sanity, because in the show, Jack's got all this time travel stuff and been fighting the forces of evil for centuries or whatever. And it's very light. It's very straightforward. It does a really nice job of capturing the spirit of the show. It has a nice amount of, fan acknowledgement or show acknowledgement with the different characters and the different pawns you get to play and the art that's in the game. So, I think IP-based games can be tough. I think IP-based games are getting better, which I'm very happy about. And Samurai Jack Back to the Past, I think fans of the show, if you're interested in kind of a lighter weight board game experience, this is definitely one that I think you'll be interested in.
And then I'm even learning something new. I've never even heard of it. So
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Mandy.
I know. Who would have thought? I've never heard of it.
Wait. You haven't heard of the game, or you haven't heard of the show?
The game.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
the game.
Phew,
The game.
That's understandable.
No. Familiar. That is familiar. It is the game.
I was gonna have to like kidnap you and have a cartoon day with you if you hadn't heard of Samurai Jack.
I loved cartoons.
All right, we're all okay.
I just loved, some of the really cheesy ones. That's all.
Nothing wrong with a little bit of cheese.
Oh, yeah. Oh, geez. That sounds really good. Okay. Wow. I'm hungry. Okay. So the last game I'm going to talk about is one that I didn't quite get through the entire game, just through a couple rounds because I had to run to a panel. It was called Welcome to Centerville, and it was designed by Chad Jensen. The artist is Chechu Nieto, and is published by GMT Games. There is a lot going on in this game. It has some dice rolling, but it also has other elements on the board where you're going to allocate your dice in order to acquire points. So they have like a stream where you want to place your tokens. They have some trees where you want to place your tokens. You're like, okay, this sounds really boring. You have some tiles that you want to acquire for set collection. These are going to be points later. It has a kind of Yahtzee mechanic. So as as he's explaining it, it's like, okay, this is familiar. And then I was playing with Rob Davio, and he's a designer, right? So he's like, yeah, getting it. I'm like, yeah, I am so lost right now because there's so much going on in this board. And anyway, it finally clicked. He's like, yeah, it's like Yahtzee. I'm like, oh yeah, it's right. I didn't even think about that. It made it so much easier. But the dice have all these different symbols that you can allocate to spaces on the board in order to get points. You've got a park. You can allocate your little cubes there in order to score points later for these parks and so forth. There's even like a politics type element where you can get favor tokens, which will help you out later. And you want to have your businesses on the side of the board, which will also give you points. There's a lot of little elements going on, and I'm not doing it justice by explaining it with like the really basics. But I like the fact that it had dice, but it had lots of other things going on. And you had re-rolls and other ways to allocate your dice, which I thought was really neat. This is a game I would definitely want to play again. We only got through, I think, a couple of rounds, so you couldn't really get a good feel for the game, but I had been recommended by other people that it was about a 45-minute game. You can play with dice, but it's a game that you can still implement a bit of strategy or put some thought behind. So let's welcome to Centerville.
Awesome. I actually bought this.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. Whoa. Really? It's like, I don't remember you talking about it.
Well, no, I haven't talked about it.
Oh.
No. I just bought it, and it's been sitting on my shelf. And I'm super embarrassed because I thought it was a 2-player only game. And that's why I hadn't been kind of nudging my game group to get it to the table. So, no, I've been hearing good things about it. And it feels a little different than some of GMT's typical offerings, and so I had to check it out. So I'm glad to hear it's intrigued you at least.
Yes, just to see more. I mean, I've only played a smidgen, so we'll see what happens.
Well, I think the last game I'll fully talk about is one that as soon as I saw it, I fell in love with it, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. This is Drop It. Drop it.
Okay.
Drop it, Mandy. Drop it. It is coming from Cosmos Games, and it's I don't know how to describe it. It's this big stand-up and it's got like clear plexiglass, so it's like a Connect 4 board. I don't know. Like, it's just like, imagine like it's standing upright. It's not Connect 4 because it's not got channels, but it's just a big piece of a plexiglass sleeve, I don't know, that's standing upright. And it's got some markings on it and, wood base to help it hold steady. And then you've got this pile of shapes like diamonds and circles and squares and a bunch of different colors. And all you're doing, Mandy, is dropping these pieces down this plexiglass structure. And then, the way the plexiglass is, it holds them up. So you get this like wall of shapes forming as they're rising up in this thing. I know, Mandy, as soon as you see it, you want to play it. It's just delightful. So you've just got these shapes and colors, and basically you take turns dropping the pieces down the channel of this structure, and you score based on the highest, the level marking that it reaches on the thing. The twist, because, that would just be blarg, whatever, okay. The twist is that pieces cannot touch other pieces that match in shape or color.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
And so you're putting these pieces in, you're like, and you're kind of you have to deal with physics, the unpredictability of physics when you're just throwing wood down plexiglass. You're lining them up, and it's kind of like Plinko.
I was just about to say, is it like Plinko? That was my favorite on Price is Right.
Vaguely, because there's no like pins that's bouncing off of, but you're trying to line this shape up and get it to drop just where you want it. But of course, it doesn't always cooperate. Bumps off something else and then it lands and it's touching. Sometimes you're there and you're arguing, you're looking at it and you're looking at these two pieces and you're arguing about whether or not they're touching because there's like a 0.5 millimeter apart or something like that. And it's just silly and it's delightful. It's visually stunning and it's fun. Darn it, it's just fun. And so that is definitely one that caught my eye, to say the least. Drop It from Cosmos.
It definitely sounds like my type of game. If it's Planko-esque, I think I will enjoy it.
For sure.
So did we cover all our games, or?
No, I had a couple more I just wanted to mention.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you had more than me. What? All right, I'm listening. More to add to my list.
Show. So one to keep your eye out for. First of all, you remember last episode, I talked about Welcome To, which is a roll and write that I'm completely in love with. Mm-hmm. It was really nice to see that there were a number of copies floating around Gama. I'm really hoping that this one gets picked up and gets to a wider audience. So that got played a lot. So definitely one to keep your eye open. Another one that got a ton of play that I've also gotten to play before is The Mind. This is from NSV Games, and I guess it's kind of a follow-up game in a way to The Game, the Spiel nominated The Game with, the horrible, horrible title that you can't look up.
Yep.
This is one people should keep their eye open for. Pandasaurus announced that they picked it up, so it will come to, broader audiences through them. It's fascinating. And I actually think, I don't want to talk about it too much because I'm going to probably review this in our next episode because I'm just totally fascinated by this guy. I've played it like 12 times now. So that's The Mind. Wow. So keep your eye open for that one.
So I wonder, are they going to make it into like a series or something, do you think?
I know. The foot.
The ear.
I don't know. The ear. The nose hair. I'm not sure. We'll see what they do. But, I can tease them about the title. But the fact is I'm totally enchanted by the game. So there you go. Name aside.
Good gameplay can override all.
Funny how that works. And honestly, the last thing I just wanted to mention is I did get to see Amigo had their new refresh for 2018. And I'm not sure if it's going to be for all markets or just the United States market. It wasn't clear to me, but they are refreshing a number of their classic games. And they have a really cool retro minimalist art style to them, which I'm excited because games like No Thanks or Six Nimbt or Cafe International, they're not necessarily known for their great aesthetics, but they're well loved for their gameplay and are basically classics because of it. So I'm really, really, really excited. I just saw boxes there, but I'm really hoping that the game art itself follows up on it. I'm hoping Cafe International cleans up some of the dated ethnic tropes that it uses. I know that they've got Take 5 and Take a Number coming out, which is like in one box. It combines Six Nimbt and X Nimbt, so you can play both games out of one box, which is awesome. These are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful games that I just adore. And so I'm really excited that they're putting both of them in one box with hopefully a cool aesthetic. So, Amigo refresh for 2018, that is something I personally am also keeping my eye out for. All I got to see was boxes, but that was enough to make me happy.
Good idea. I hope they do like a art refresh for Elf Nimbt or 11 Nimbt because that's the one that I like a lot. But the art could use a little zing,
Oh yeah. Yeah. All those cow heads, indeed.
So I think we've covered them all. Lots of games, lots for people to think about, talk about, buy, whichever. And oh, wow. I think this is good. All right. And I've added a few to my own personal list.
Oh, the lists go on and on. Just one of each, Mandy. One of each.
I know,
That's
right?
what we're going to have to figure out how to do.
Add it to the cart.
Well, thanks everybody for listening to us talk all about our Breakout Con and Gama adventures and all those wonderful games. Next episode for Mandy and I will be answering questions from the mailbag, so feel free to send us any questions that you have. You can reach us at Suzanne and Mandy with an I, at gmail.com. I think we're supposed to start using our Dice Tower emails, but I actually don't know how to access ours yet.
Oh, wait, so. I don't even remember what it is. Yeah, you know what? We might want to look into that.
Yeah, we should probably do that. But for now, Suzanne and Mandy at gmail.com will work, and we will get those questions. As always, thank you so much for joining us and listening to the podcast with us. Next episode 548. Is it?
Yeah.
Tom and Eric are going to be talking about comeback games, which I had to ask Tom what a comeback game was. I wasn't quite sure. But I'll let him tell you all about comeback games in that episode. All right, everybody, thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Basil Memorial Fund is an organization dedicated to helping gamers in need. Learn more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackbasil.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Suzanne, Mandy, and Eric, with assistance from Itai Perez, Derek Porter, Rob Searing, and Jeff Rademacher. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham and arranged by Matt Bellier. And hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. So there seemed to be a lot of interest in our Two Truths and a Lie this week, but maybe just because I was at the con, so people wanted to know in advance.
Oh, cheaters.
I didn't give it up, so we're going to reveal now. So mine were, I love maple anything, I love summer, and I love cross-country skiing. If you said the lie was I love maple anything, you are 100% correct. I am not a fan of maple.
What? Mandy?
And I'm Canadian. Go figure.
What am I supposed to do with this information? Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
I know. It's a shocker. So what about you? I'm sure you have one, too. A nice shocker for us.
Last time, I'm a pretty good gardener. I'm a pretty good volleyball player. And I'm a pretty good swimmer. And the lies, most definitely, I am a pretty good gardener. I am a horrible gardener. I have the black thumb of death, and I don't enjoy it on any level. God bless all of you gardeners out there. I appreciate your output, but please don't make me help you.
I kind of in that camp as well, so totally get it. Oh, so new ones for you to think about this week. I still own the game Catchphrase. I still own Pictionary. And I still own the Addams Family game.
Ooh.
Some fun ones there.
All right. And for me, I've sewed a doll. I've sewed my finger. And I've sewed a dress. One of those probably would hurt.
Just a little. So, good luck, everyone. New from USAopoly is Disney's A Wrinkle in Time daring adventure game. This cooperative game lets players go on an epic journey following the storyline from the upcoming theatrical release. Players will take on the role of the story's main characters, Meg, Charles Wallace, and Calvin, and work together to solve mathematical puzzles, decode secret messages, and tesser to new locations to rescue Mr. Murray before the darkness takes over. For 1 to 3 players and ages 8 and up. Available now at Barnes & Nobles and for pre-order at your friendly local game store.